Cool. Jason, well, thank you for coming on Uncontaminated Sounds. So I guess the logical question, where does your creative journey begin? Because I know you're a practitioner of law in the daytime, but how do you get it? How did you like dive into forming, into music as you know, when did your creative path start, I guess, is the question.
It's a little unconventional. First of all, thank you for having me. Thank you for bringing up the trauma of my lawyer career. And I always loved music. And I dabbled a little bit throughout the years, grabbed an acoustic guitar, attempted to play in a few punk bands in high school before then. Then got an acoustic guitar in college, did a little bit of songwriting then. But it wasn't until later on when I was in law school that I joined my first legitimate band. And I insinuated myself into that band as the bass player, which I had never played bass before, but I figured I could probably do it. And I did, and I absolutely loved it. And after a little bit, I started like contributing to the lyrics at first, I think, and then started to write songs that I would present to the band. I think I got one of them, or no, two of them on our second EP. But then the band broke up, and we then reformed with just a sort of modified lineup. But in the reformed band, I wrote or co-wrote all of the songs for the most part. And I really loved being a songwriter. And so we made a couple of albums together and are still on a hiatus. We haven't ever officially broken up, if you will. Just on a hiatus since about 2013 or so. Then I proceeded to mope around the house, depressed because I didn't have my songwriting outlet. So my girlfriend, and I'd moved to Brooklyn, so I didn't know a whole lot of people. So my girlfriend at the time went to her friend and was like, "You have to play music with my boyfriend. I'm tired of him moping around the house." And much to my amazement, he did, and we did. And we started a band together. We're still in that band together. But through just a series of trials and tribulations, we basically put the band on the shelf for a while. First thing was my bandmate Adam was a singer, got a call up on their vocal cord, couldn't sing for a year and a half. Then my girlfriend passed away, the one who basically dictated that the band formed. And then the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
And so, like, despite living a mile and a half away from each other, we couldn't actually sit down in a room and play together. So that's when I started doing more of the stuff under my own name. I hesitate to call it solo stuff because it's very much far from that. But I do just put my name on it, despite the fact that a lot of different people contribute to the project. And then when the pandemic happened, I didn't have anything else to do except for sit around and write songs and sing them and sing other people's songs. And somehow something miraculous happened. A voice that was, let's say, never, what's the word I'm looking for, I think is good. A voice that was never good, it eventually over time became something that I personally don't dislike hearing. And that really changed my songwriting in just across the board, and caused me to write songs that I am very proud of now. So that's where I am. That's the long version of the journey.
Well, I'm curious. Oh, did you grow up in New York, or you just moved for work, or did you go to school in the New York area, or what brought you to Brooklyn?
I
guess.
grew up in Western New York State,
Mhm.
in Gary Country, south of Buffalo. When I was 15, my family moved to the Cincinnati suburbs
Mhm.
in Kentucky. And so I went to the University of Kentucky, and that's where I met my bandmates. That eventually I was within that band. We were so confident, and I'm just gonna say rightfully so, because we were really good, that we were gonna make it. That when our singer's girlfriend went to NYU to get an MFA in creative writing. The brilliant Kayla Ray Whitaker, if I can name drop, author of The Animators, an excellent book. So when she got done with her MFA at NYU, for reasons that are entirely understandable, she was like, I don't want to move back to Kentucky. I'm going to stay in New York. And so our singer, now her husband, then her then boyfriend, perhaps fiance, I don't recall specifically, said, hey boys, my lady doesn't want to move back here and I want to live with her, so I'm moving to New York. And we're like, well, we need you. We don't have anybody to sing if you're not here. We don't know anybody else who can sing like you. So Larry and I talked about it, and we're like, I'd rather be in a band and move to Brooklyn than not be in a band and live in Lexington, Kentucky. So that was the basis of that decision.
Now, did you go to law school in New York, or was that also in Kentucky as well?
No, I went to the University of Kentucky College of Law.
Okay. Now, actually, I'm curious though. It's if you had this always had this creative side regarding music and stuff, what kind of drew you to law? I guess as well.
I wanted to make money.
Yeah,
There's
that's a good
there's
point.
no intersection between the creative urge and the practice of law. I never wanted to be a music lawyer. I never wanted to be an entertainment lawyer. I never wanted a lawyer and to have anything to do with music. Fortunately, it's not unfortunately. I'm very grateful for all of my music clients, and if you're listening, I love you very much. Daddy didn't mean it. But at least when I was in law school, I was puritanical and frankly arrogant enough to say, this is completely separate from the music that I want to make. They never shall the twain converge. And they have over the years, and that's great. And frankly, a lot of what I've learned as a lawyer has informed not just our ability to enter into contracts knowing what they say, but also to advise other musicians and to to help other people in their careers through what I've learned as a lawyer over the years. But originally, there was very much an intention to keep them 100% separate at all times.
Yeah. Now, when you got to Brooklyn and you linked up with your bandmates, or if you could, in the time frame, how do you start getting your music out? Like, did you start performing in venues and stuff, or like how did you get your stuff out there?
Yeah, so within hours of moving into our place, we moved into a loft building in Bushwick on Eldridge Street. And within moments of being there, we were invited to a party, and then we were invited to jam out on some tunes. And then we met people there. One of those people wound up being our drummer. We moved here without a drummer. Our band at the time never had a permanent drummer. We just had a revolving door of people who played with us.
Yeah.
And And then we knew some people here, and then other people heard our music and started booking us. And then we were pretty adept at, managing ourselves. So we just started, booking gigs and doing all of the hard work of promoting a band, which basically then and now, as far as I know, it's a little more streamlined these days. Back then, you would, this would be a typical, we would do this when Larry and I were not working on writing music, we were working on promoting it all the time. So we would say, we're going to take this night, we're going to drink beer, and we're going to send emails. You would just send hundreds and hundreds of emails to different people, trying to get them to write about you on their blog or, and but then as part of that, we'd also book the shows. We always booked everything ourselves. And, sometimes we had promoters who would contact us. That happened a lot. And sometimes we would just have to ask the venue for a show, but it wasn't, it was all just part of the process. We were very dedicated to sending unsolicited emails.
Yeah. Sorry, just working a little technical stuff, but interesting. I guess kind of like maybe a generic question, but like what sounds in like what musicians or even like other, artistic mediums kind of influence you in your style and your songwriting, etc.
Well, as far as music is concerned, I have like a very broad spectrum of things. But I mean, I think that when it comes down to it, my stuff's like folk rock nursery rhymes with somebody who's read Arthur Rimbaud's work. So I like to write a nice relatable ditty with either meaningful or interesting lyrics. I have always been somebody who enjoyed writing a great deal, and I enjoy poetry a lot, and I think that informs my work quite a bit. I'm not above literally stealing lines from Shakespeare, and I do know them to begin with. So I think that and the same, like whenever I can't come up with a word or a line, I will go to my bookshelf, and I usually go to The Flowers of Evil, The Fleur de Mal by Baudelaire. I just randomly open it up and like point at lines till I can find one. Do the same thing with Rimbaud from time to time. So aside from like the Beatles and Beck and Tom Petty and Arcade Fire and My Morning Jacket, Bright Eyes, all that stuff. My primary influence would be poetry.
Interesting. Well, it makes sense though. I guess if you, I mean, in the legal profession, it's a lot of writing too in the structure, and so it kind of translates to songwriting too. That structured kind of format.
Definitely. I think that my work as a songwriter has actually improved my writing as a lawyer, frankly.
Interesting. Interesting. I had a like during that downtime in the pandemic, and particularly lockdown, and what was that like? Did you have to really face your internal self and like and with the other past incidences as well? Did you really have to confront your internal self and then just try to you break that down into onto the page, I guess, if that makes sense?
Yes, it was without question about as hard a time as I could imagine anybody ever having.
Hmm.
My girlfriend passed away on Christmas Eve of 2019.
Oh.
I went into basically a 90-day blackout,
Hmm.
drunk episode. I emerged around the end of February. It was like when I was going to attempt to go back to work,
Hmm.
and within 2 weeks, the city had completely shut down, and so yeah, so I was just there in our apartment that we had shared for 8 years,
Oh.
with nothing but my loneliness and my guitar. Yeah, so the this whole body of work reflects that journey, from complete despondence to something like acceptance.
Mhm.
And um, yeah, so in a word, it was terrible.
Yeah. Well, I've found too, through my own struggles, and through my own internalization through the pandemic, and also had to deal with, my partner and I have had to deal with some recent loss of her mother last month, unexpectedly.
So sorry to hear that.
And but I find, and throughout my years too, I've lost a lot of, unfortunately, I've lost a lot of people too. My best friend in 2013, which actually sparked my journey from Boston, and from like private security and the criminal justice into a creative field, actually. So it really, because at the time I was actually in a command center in the Museum of Fine Arts Boston, and just surrounded by monitors, just by myself, from working 12 a.m. to 8 p. No, 12 to 8, just overnight, just surrounded by monitors by myself. And then, after his death, it was just like, I can't. This is literally, I'm just locked in my own head, literally, and there's no feedback here. It's only monitors, and I'm like, I have to try New York. It's just this whim, and I started kind of going to events in New York, and it's been a journey sparked by um, that loss that led me to this journey where I had my first showing of photography in 2017 in Chelsea, and I found my true self as an artist through the sequences of unfortunate events that sparked my action to change myself and pursue my true authentic self, I guess.
And isn't
Um,
it amazing how that can happen from trauma?
yeah.
I've had a similar experience in that people, when in the past, when people would ask me to do something, if I didn't want to do it, or I, you know, for whatever reason, I just felt obligated. Now I'm like, no, life's too long for me to fill it with doing a bunch of crap I don't want. And it's specifically, since losing Sarah, or whatever it is about that, I still don't quite understand what it is.
Hmm.
You're just like, no, I'm here for me and mine, and I will make the compromises that are necessary to put food on the table, keep the lights on, but I'm not gonna. I'm focused on my self-actualization and my happiness.
Hmm.
I'm glad to hear that you got to become creative from that. It's so hard to lose somebody.
Oh, I know. It's I found it as also, though, I feel like the act of creating is a healing process as well. Like, I don't just dabble in photography in the back. I paint. Painting is a really great way for me to just, get out, say, anxiety or sadness, and just, dive into the real subconscious of myself. And, I'm not just, whatever comes, because it's just really just a pure act of expression. And just like with paint, I can go, and get all that angst out, and that true emotion out on, say, a canvas or wood panel, and as in the background. And I also write too. I love to write. Every morning I have a typewriter, and I'm like basically, a stream of conscious, basically a manuscript like this thick of just stream of consciousness writing. And I love burrows, and so I'm fascinated with the cut up technique. So I would love to cut up. I've experimented during the pandemic, or kind of just lockdown, I guess, with the cut up technique. And then, pasting that over, say, like oil or stuff too, in different mediums, and, creating my own kind of, or trying to just create my own technique. And I guess on my end too, regarding this internalization due to the pandemic, et cetera, it's helped me find my, also, my painting voice too, and really like, how do I confront myself? Because, throughout my college career or history too, I've dealt with deep depression down at college. I went to school in Miami, and it kind of partied a bit, and I've had to deal with it myself, in that some dark moments, and now I'm learning to be alone with myself and be comfortable with myself, because otherwise it's led to me trying to avoid that, and kind of lead to a bit overconsumption of alcohol and stuff like that. So it's I think it's a very hard practice to really confront your true self or your internalized thoughts, and not try to numb them with external devices such as booze and stuff like that. But I think initially, after a loss or deep loss, you tend to want to do that to numb those emotions. But after a time, you're like, I don't like that anymore. And you kind of just tap into, okay, what, on my end at least, like I want to try to, use this emotion, use this struggle, and try to piece it together in something and put it out there in the world where it's not internalized and, eating me alive. Let me try to work it and mold it into something that's at least positive, or it may not be good, but you get it out some way, some manner,
Of creating, I
Yeah.
think, is whether you're creating a song, whether you're creating a poem, whether you're creating a painting, whether you're doing mixed media, whatever it is that you're creating, the act of doing that, I think it is a way of not confronting yourself, but giving expression to yourself, expressing yourself, if you will, in a way that can, like in a way it sort of gives a name or gives a form to this thing that you're trying to understand or trying to confront, if you will. And then, like, when it's there, you can, it'll have, it has a form of some variety, and then having given that thing form, it's no longer this amorphous burden that you have on your psyche. And you've let it out and you've put it into the world, and and then I always find that, like, whatever that burden was, which I often can't give a name, is no longer there after I've made a thing from it.
So I guess, like, in the pure act of creating, you kind of loosen that tension, or that, lessen that burden within yourself, and you extract that and put that wherever it goes, whatever medium you chose, a medium is. It seems like, and that's just like, it's an interesting process, like, and that's what I've been trying to, discover throughout these conversations, I think almost 50 conversations now with so many different people of all types of creative talents, and it's still kind of a mystery though. Like people haven't really defined a set process. It's just like the general answer is, why do you create? I must, and I think it has to do with that part of tapping into the psyche, and just wanting to release something into the world, or expression that maybe it was held back in childhood or whatnot, and you weren't freely allowed to be yourself, but which kind of like myself, and I found creativity in a later age, but um, I think it's fascinating. If I had time, I'd probably just maybe do a research project on it, or funding. But hey, it's just interesting to discuss this type of process with all sorts of people, and find that similarities in similar patterns too in their creative processes. Um, so to wrap back to you instead of the larger picture, so with all that process, the product of that year, 2020 year, was the Same Day EP. Is that correct, or?
That was part of it.
Hmm.
Yeah, the Same Day EP is part of like the ongoing process of sort of collecting these songs. Rather than put out an entire album at one time, I just put them out as we get them done being recorded. But that EP, all the songs were written on the same day, and I've never written 3 songs in one day before.
Yeah.
So I thought that would be a fun way to just collect that little part of the package. All 3 of those songs are going to wind up on being on the album, if you will. But so Same Day was part of it. We also have had Be Nice to Yourself and Pink Sun of Bisbee, I think, are the only ones that have come out so far from that ongoing recording project. But yeah, so Same Day has Fare Thee Well on it, which was like the song right after. I think those songs were written either after Be Nice to Yourself or after Pink Sun of Bisbee. In any event, like it starts to be the inflection point. I talk about this like it's a narrative about somebody else, but that is the point where like I've gotten to the point where I recognize that like it's not always going to be like this, that I will at some point become a thinking, feeling, breathing human being again, instead of like a sponge for alcohol. And so then like, wrote a bunch of other tunes after that, which we're in the process of releasing right now. But yeah, Same Day is 3 tunes that were all born of that experience.
Interesting, though, that you could recognize the like, oh, this is the moment now, but there's hope, and I won't be that person, down the road. You recognize this is my kind of grieving and mourning period, but down the road there is hope for coming back to the present world, and just being kind of I guess human again, right? But everybody has their own mourning process too, so you have to give that time as well to just digest that, and particularly after that you've been with somebody for so long, and then boom, so it's very hard to deal with. in general, for anybody, and I find it that it's just a great feat that you could release, or you create during that process as well, or during that period as well. During 2020, during that period as well, did you ever get a chance to perform anywhere, or did you kind of do any like live sessions streaming, or did you do any, um, I don't know, just any kind of performance, no matter digitally or even outside or anything like that, or?
I did okay, in 2020. I know that I did a couple of live streams, not not on a regular basis. I played I think I played a little show in Bisbee, Arizona. Not sure if that was 2020 or 2021. May have done some things here or there. I think I did a private socially distanced salon event that one of my friends put on, which is a different creative people, coming to talk about their creative project. But yeah, I don't think there was definitely not a whole lot in 2020.
Yeah.
But I've recently started making well, shoot, I played like quite a few shows recently, and looking to get some more books for 2021. I mean 2022.
Yeah, no, yeah.
But yeah, I'm playing. Looks like I'm playing another show in Bisbee, Arizona, on January 10th. And then I'll be playing around the city a whole bunch, as I do.
Cool.
With
oh, what's your favorite venue, by the way, in the city?
I like to play Mercury Lounge.
Yeah, I can see that. It's been, for me, it feels like years since I've shot a live performance indoors. I mean, all summer, not to cut you off, all summer I've been kind of in Long Island City, kind of volunteering with this arts nonprofit called Culture Lab LIC. They built an outdoor venue, so I've been shooting kind of outdoor stuff, but indoors, like when I was like with Pace Magazine or Events Magazine, I was going to all the venues in the city covering, musicians like yourself, and I missed that, I just missed doing that, but I haven't had an opportunity to go to a venue recently. It's like, I missed that, the energy. I missed the capturing live performance. And the dimness, the darkness. I love the Mercury Lounge too, by the way. So
yeah, the played there in September, and then I did that was with my Cracker Jack band featuring the Moon City Masters, great dudes, and Adam, my bandmate in Shapes on Tape, improvised on the keys some, did great. And then we did a little like Laurel Canyon style folk thing at Pete's Candy Store with me playing the acoustic guitar and the Moon City Masters playing the acoustic guitar and bass, 3-part harmonies through the whole thing. Then I did a couple of like solo gigs for New York Fashion Week events.
Oh, cool.
It's an interesting experience. Like to get out of the the traditional venues from time to time.
Yeah. Also, I was curious, like, how do you link up with Justin Craig, by the way?
I've known Justin Craig for almost as long as I can remember. 20 years probably.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I was dating his best friend in college. And whenever she would have a party, we would sit on the couch improvising songs together. And that's how we initially met. And then he was on tour all the time around then. and he wound up moving to New York. And when we were making our second record, I was like, we need to hire this guy to produce the album. And my band was like, why? And I was like, he had produced his own band's album, and I had heard it. They're also from Lexington, Kentucky, and I thought it sounded amazing. So I hired him to produce our album, which I think was the first album. Maybe I don't want to take credit where it's not due, but I'm pretty sure, I'll ask him later, that it was the very first time he was hired by somebody who was not his own band to produce a record. And we've been friends ever since. We're very good friends. When I say that my solo stuff is like not solo, I mean Justin probably he definitely plays more stuff on it than I do, that's for sure, by a wide margin. But you know, it's like we collaborate all the time. Yeah, so we met in Lexington, Kentucky, like 20 years ago.
Wow,
Something like that.
that's cool. That's amazing. And he's in New York now too, I assume? Or
Yes.
cool. That's amazing. I guess for like more of a future kind of vision question, like where do you see I guess your music and your craft going, and the hopes for it? Would you envision pursuing it full time, or just really see where it goes on the see where it goes with in tandem with your legal career as well?
Um, that's a very good question. So I'm going to answer it with an anecdote. I was talking to a friend of mine who is the source of basically all of my musical legal work, but he had originally hired me to be an A&R person for his production company, and then started working on my own songwriting with him. And he was like, be honest. If you look at where you were 3 years ago as a songwriter, and you look at yourself now, today, it was like 2 weeks ago, could you believe that you would have made that much progress? And I said, and I believe this to be true, I was like, absolutely not. No, no way. Like, it's obvious to me, to you, to everybody, like what a transformation I've undergone as a songwriter and as a singer. You know, I guess fortunately I've always been isolated from success, so I could have that growth.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I'm never going to stop doing it, but I wouldn't mind some success. Isolation from success isn't my goal necessarily. I mean, what is successful anyway? I'm reading David Byrne's book, How Music Works. And he's very emphatically states that your success as an artist has very little correlation with the dollars and cents that it produces. But I mean, you know, I've got some amount of fans all over the world, and they send me messages, very nice messages, telling me what my tunes mean to them. And that means a great deal to me. And I think that that's really all that matters. But I wouldn't mind doing it full time. I certainly would enjoy that.
Would you like jump at an opportunity to like do like a international tour as well, of course?
Yes, I would.
Oh, things are so up in the air right now traveling, and
Mhm.
it's crazy. But
No, in addition to my many other projects, I am the New City Masters manager, and they do have an international tour booked right now, and we have no idea whether it's going to happen or not.
yeah,
We're kind of like assuming that it will, but the current state of the world, you just don't know. Side note, interesting thing about international touring in Europe, the venue provides your meals for the day and gives you a place to stay, in addition to providing a much nicer fee for playing.
no way. That's
Oh yeah.
cool. Oh man, see, and that's my thing. It's like, in Europe, I have seen some really great programs where they actually will give you an artist a salary and just work on their stuff. And here it's like, good luck, like we don't our priorities in the in cultural creation has kind of dwindled. It's like, oh, that's just a hobby or a side game. Like, but for me, it's like this full-time work. It takes a lot of intelligence, a lot of effort, research, materials, to create your craft and to do it well. It is a job, but in the States, it's like we don't get compensated whatsoever. Ever. It's like good luck, you know. But that's where I'm fascinated with the European model, where it's like, yeah, that's amazing. We should do that here, but like, yeah, it's
I had that same thought when when I when they told us that, when the booking agent told us, like, wait, they provide food and a place to stay. That makes sense.
yeah, right. Oh, we'll actually support artists. That's new to me.
It's a novel concept, but one that appeals to me intuitively for some reason.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Here it's like we're in a super, consumeristic kind of society. Late capitalism, of course, and it's just like, you know, the weak kind of are uh, at the bottom, and it's just like, to each their own, and kind of earn as much as you can, and then not even thinking about like the rest of the population. So I think we've kind of lost that bit of, I guess, I don't want to say socialism, but just like, you know that, yeah, I guess just a bit of yeah, sorry, I lost the train of thought, but yeah, I think here we're just all about more of a profit comparatively to actually, supporting artists in the creation of good and meaningful art to the culture at hand.
I think
But
that's unquestionably true.
yeah,
And promoters will, I'm not trying to take a crap on all promoters, whatever, but the, you know, musicians love to play, artists love to perform. And so they'll do it for less money than what should be rightfully paid,
mm,
because it's a reward in and of itself just to be able to get to play.
mm,
And so, you know, um, with the model being, and then of course, historically speaking, it was always expected that touring would be a loss leader for the sale of recorded music.
mm,
Recorded music doesn't even sell anymore, and live shows have become huge business, but the industry hasn't recalibrated, um, for the most part, to, I mean, yes, it is expected now that tours aren't going to lose money. Record labels aren't giving tour deficit support as much, at least not to, certainly not to any, bands who are toting around guitars. Maybe that exists in the pop world. I don't know. I'm not a pop artist. I can't speak to that.
mm,
But, and also the label model itself is a byproduct of the industry being centered around selling plastic to people, aka cassette tapes, records, CDs, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Now it's just like a really shitty bank who wants to take 85% of your money in exchange for a pittance up front. And so the whole industry in the United States really should be rethought, but it's probably not going to happen. It'll just lurch along in a hazard fashion, and
Well, I was gonna say, I was like, how do you rethink that model? But maybe that's just more of a think tank kind of question for just academics sitting around a table than actually being applied to in a real world setting, I guess, right? Or though I do find opportunity where just as the artist just cut out the label and just do it themselves, like independent promotion and independent creation and stuff like that. But I think it also would take a collective artisans to get together and produce self-produced art and independence, and et cetera, which is hard because, a lot of people have their own agendas for their own work, and trying to get anybody together for any reason is very difficult. So, yeah, I think it's a heady question, but yeah, I think in your previous statement that, yeah, I think we'll just see it truck along. I don't see any innovation in the near future regarding the industry itself, unless there's some kind of major external disruption. And they said, that was COVID, but oh, we can all rally around COVID. Hasn't really happened, right? It's so going back to like history though, I mean, like post WW2 or post WW1, say like in in Germany, prior to WW2, you had that era of just immense creativity, and people said, about that we would see that here, and due to COVID. So I'm not really seeing that, so I don't know. We're so kind of divided as a culture. It's I don't know. Is it? Do you think it's due to the digital age and this concept of just being their own like influencer online? I don't get it. I don't get why there hasn't been really a major art movement in or in music, visual art, etc. I don't get it, but maybe I'm just rambling right now. But
it's a good question. I mean, you would think there would be some kind of correlation to the epoch shift that happened when people had to go from forking out their actual money to like go buy one piece of music to being able to pay a very modest subscription fee and having all of the music available. I mean, there definitely is a lot more music than there used to be. When we were making our first record in Candidate, we had to pay lots of thousands of dollars to be able to just record it. I mean, maybe at that time it was possible to record at home, but we certainly didn't have the expertise to be able to make anything that would be worth listening to by ourselves. And now, of course, you can do that, and lots of people are making very good music entirely in their own home studios, which is super cool. But it hasn't really brought about a revolution, has it?
No. I think we're kind of oversaturated too with, because it's so easy to create anything, on the web, and then we're just bombarded with visuals, music, etc., and weird videos on TikTok. It's like we're so oversaturated with all this a flood of information visually and sonically too, with the music on the web. It's like, how does this all piece together? Like, um, so that's interesting. Yeah, just a
But it's
thought.
important to have curators like yourself and other authorities that people can, have that, either whether it's like a radio station, which I love WFUV, huge WFUV fan. I hear so much, I learn of so much of the music that I like from there, and I'm a big fan of radio in general. I don't know, I guess I'm a dinosaur like that, but whenever I'm traveling, um, I like to try to tune into the local AAA or public non-com radio station, and see what they got happening over there. I used to love blogs. It seems like that they're kind of becoming less and less of a thing than they used to be. I guess nowadays it's like the thing everybody wants to get on are like Spotify playlists, which I'm going to tell you guys that's just a fool's errand. But that's neither here nor there, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, we just, this is just such a deluge of music, and you just don't. I think a lot of times people don't know where to turn their attention, or they just like turn their attention off, and they're like, all right, I just like will not pay attention to anything. But on balance, I think it's pretty great that anybody who wants to can put their music out to anybody who wants to listen to it. And yeah, it's harder to get people to pay attention to it, and maybe that's one of the reasons why labels still exist, is to sort of put their imprimatur of legitimacy on it.
Yeah.
I like being my own label, if you will, and I've acted as the label for other artists. That my label, if you will, is called I Can't Wait for Summer. And I've got a really cool logo, and that's about the extent of what the label really is. Otherwise, it's just me.
Yeah.
But I figured out how to get music to radio. I figured out how to get it to like licensing companies and all of that stuff. And if you're willing to put in the groundwork and to educate yourself, you don't need a law degree to figure this stuff out.
Yeah,
it's out there, and so I think it's pretty great that you can just be like, okay, I'm the label now, and then here's how I do it. You don't need to get like an independent radio promoter, although I will tell you that they can be worth the money if it's a good fit and your music and you have the right music. But you don't have to have one, and a label can be great if, for instance, you need the advance and you have no like desire to engage in any of the stuff that they do, the promotional aspects of it, sending your tunes to radio. But you can't be a totally DIY artist and do all of the same things that a label traditionally did. And maybe that is the revolution. Maybe it's just so much of a goddamn, am I allowed to swear? Maybe it's
yeah, of course.
maybe it's just like such a slog all of the time that you don't realize that, like, wait, hold on, this is literally the revolution. I am reaping the reward by sitting here sending out 200 emails in a row.
Yeah. Well, that's right. It's like, I guess that is true too, where although we're oversaturated a bit with for I hate the word content, to be honest. It's so marketing, you know, in corporate term, but music and self-expression on the web, that I haven't, maybe I haven't myself, I haven't stepped back. I'm like, oh wait, yeah, this is the revolution of self-production, you know, and self-promotion. And we have the tools to promote our stuff without that third party, you know, and having that the corporate tentacles within your in your product, or i.e. your craft, your art. And yeah, the do it yourself revolution, I guess, is the movement right now. I think
Now we just got to get Spotify to pay us better, make the creators pay us better.
yeah,
Now we just got to insist on our own worth. Now that we've all collectively made the content, we got to, you know, let people know, like, oh, it wasn't free. Actually, a lot of work went into this. Pay me.
yeah. Well, I think too, that's and I've been through a lot of workshops too, and like trying to learn how to really not say, oh, it's just my art, yeah, take it, you know. It's like I've learned,
have it, please take it.
yeah, it's like, no, like, what is a valuable opportunity to me, you know, and like, oh, you can do this for exposure. Yeah, I always despise that. Work for create for exposure, you know. It's, I have a lot of, you know, and also those content, well, with photography, there's all these like open calls and contests, and it's such it just goes with the capitalist model of like everybody compete just for what are you getting? Just exposure. What you can create your own exposure, you know. And with me and my partner, you know, I've driven this series with almost 500,000 views, you know, within a year. You know, it's without anybody else. Oh, I also distribute this conversation series with VRT Media in Toronto, but they're not paying me. You know, it's just they really enjoy this series. It's one of their top series, and we every 2 weeks I've been doing it, just releasing an episode, and it's been almost 50 conversations and almost 500,000 views so far. So it's
How cool is that?
it's great. It you know, it's cool. Like, I never expected this. I just wanted to have interesting conversations, you know. And I think next year, I'm 2022. I am looking to maybe like really start maybe making a profit from it, since, you know, the proof of concept has shown people are into it. So let's maybe turn it into something a bit more of a business model, you know. But you have to start somewhere, right? You have to kind of create something, put it out, and see if actually you get that positive feedback too. You know, if people like it's awful and you don't want to continue, maybe you want to kind of rework it, you know. But
I'll never forget my favorite review that I've ever gotten as an artist. The band that I was referring to is called Candidate. Here's the opening line of the review. All of Candidate's success is undeserved.
harsh.
I would just like to point out for the record, my response was, what success?
Yeah, they're just pulling off like a cliche line, you know, to you know, connotate their disliking your the stuff. But
that was just the spirit of the times, man. That was like the age of the like snarky takedown review.
yeah,
Doesn't even exist anymore. I was talking to one of my friends about that, who did some like work for Pitchfork when it wasn't owned by Condé Nast, and like had their, you know, every other review was like a hit job on some band trying to slog out a living as if they weren't human beings who had feelings. So yeah, that was like circa 2012 or something like that, way back in the old days.
yeah.
But I'll
Well,
never forget it.
I like I feel like now a lot of writers, if they are right, there's just a lot of bots out there, AI generating these reviews too, or there's no actual journal. Like, journalism is or it's a dying industry as well. Eh, where, but it's not real. It's not like the real craft of having a writer or photographer go capture the show and write an actual review about it. Or it's AI. They don't have passion for the algorithms. Don't have passion for music. It's going by logic. They're going by logic, and it's just we're in a strange error too. But anyway, I could probably continue this discussion for hours, but I don't want to keep you too much longer. But Jason, I guess anything we should be on the lookout in 2022 that we should be excited about as music connoisseurs or just fans of interesting lyrics and anything, I guess.
Jason Matu fan, you don't even have to wait till 2022 because next Friday, the 17th, I have my next song coming out called Austin Street. And then the rest of the album as such, the collection, I don't know what it's going to be called yet, but I've run a couple of titles up the flagpole and none of them have gotten the salute just yet. So we'll see what it's going to be called, but that's all done, being recorded for the most part. Just waiting on Justin to mix it. I think we might have a couple of harmony vocals to put on there, but not much. So that's all going to come out. And my debut album got to 115 on the college radio charts. So let's make this one number one, whatever that means. I don't know what the college radio charts are, but
Me either.
115.
That's good though.
This one's going to be like way more than 100 times better.
Cool.
So I'm aiming for that number one spot.
Do you have a release date for that or not yet? Or
for the whole album? No, I don't. I'm gonna sit down and like figure out what the next songs are. I'm gonna put out every single song as an individual release.
Cool.
Because I'm a maniac like that. It's kind of the world we're living in these days, I guess.
Yeah.
And it'll, whenever the last one or two are ready to drop, then I'll just put it all out together. Maybe do a physical release with it.
Cool.
But yeah, that should be done. But I have tons more songs written to release after that. So it's just going to be a steady stream.
Nice.
So I'll just keep putting them out every 6 to 8 weeks. So hopefully, stay tuned. And thinking about releasing other artists via the I Can't Wait for Summer imprint. I think I'm ready to jump back into that game.
Cool.
A little bit more in the future. So stay tuned for that too.
And also, any live performances coming up or at all?
Just the one in Bisbee on January 10th. If you happen to be in Bisbee, Arizona, which I know that like at least several dozens, if not hundreds of people happen to live there. So hopefully they'll come by and check it out.
Yeah.
But beyond that, don't have any booked in New York right now, but gonna get on that as soon as possible.
Cool. And
but
go ahead. Sorry.
But my mentees, my young proteges, the Moon City Masters are playing Bowery Ballroom on January 13th. So
cool.
They're all over the Same Day EP, and they're fantastic, and I love them very much. Like they're my own little brothers. So
cool.
Everybody should go see them too.
Cool. Jason, thank you so much for your time, and it was a pleasant conversation, and I'll let you go at that note.
All right, thank you.
Take care, sir.